Welcome to BWTM and this edition of Inside Story. We ask the questions you want the answers to. And now our host, Ingram Jones.
Hi and welcome to another special edition of Inside Story with James Ali Bashir. I'm your host Ingram Jones, and on the show tonight, James Ali Bashir returns the trainer of Wladimir Klitschko in a really in-depth, revealing interview about what goes on in sparring, his views on the heavyweight division, update news on Wladimir Klitschko, and much, much, much more. This is well worth a listen. Well, I'll leave it for James Ali Bashir to tell all. I hope you enjoy the interview. Thank you so much for speaking to BWTM again.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Okay, so there's so much to talk about. The heavyweight division seems to turn upside its head on the last Saturday.
Yeah, I thought more of Price than that. You know, I just don't understand him getting caught like that. You know, I can't say that it was a light punch because I didn't take the punch, but I expected more from Price than that. And that kind of let the air out of his tires. It's going to be a long climb back now. There are always going to be skeptics now.
There was always question marks coming into the fight about whether Price could take a punch. In the amateur days, there were always question marks. He'd got dropped and stopped in amateurs quite a lot of times, it was reported. And coming into his professional career, nobody really hit him on the chin. And this was the first time, it wasn't even a punch on the chin, it was a light punch around the, they say around the back of their head.
The temple.
Yes. Well, they're saying it's on his neck or around his ear.
Yeah, the temple area. But, you know, I've always been very critical of fighters that were taller than 6'3".
You did mention this before.
I made mention of that. They just, the anatomy, they don't have the anatomy to take that kind of shock. It's the fighters that's low to the ground, Marciano, Tyson, and those kind of guys seem to endure punches better. You saw the punches that Tyson was able to take from Lennox Lewis, Buster Douglas. You know, all of these guys, Holyfield, all those guys beat Mike. They beat him. And I'm always befuddled by why people say Mike Tyson can't take a punch. If Mike Tyson was a quitter, he could have easily have quit with Buster Douglas, with Holyfield, and with Lennox Lewis. It was a better way for him to go out.
And even when he fought Razor Ruddock was landing some big bombs on him.
In my opinion, Razor Ruddock and Mike Tyson destroyed each other.
Yes.
In those two fights. They fought 120 days apart, I believe. It was very close together. You don't see those kind of fights happen anymore where the fighters come back and fight within 30, 40 days. Tyson and Ruddock fought very close together. And in my opinion, they both destroyed each other. They were never the same. If you make any observation of those two fighters after those two fights they had, watch their careers after those fights. They were never the same after those two fights.
Absolutely. I mean, Ruddock got blown away by Lewis in a couple of rounds, and Mike went on to, what did he do? If he came out of prison, he beat Frank Bruno for the world title, but he was never the same fighter again, Mike Tyson, for sure.
I think those two guys destroyed each other in those two fights. But it was a testimony to what old-fashioned boxing used to be. where the top guns faced each other. They didn't duck and dodge each other. In my opinion, there are a lot of fights out there that the public would like to see, that the fans would like to see, that the media would like to see. That's just not happening. These guys are going 30, 35, 40-0, and they're not really competing against each other. By the time they do compete with each other, most of their skills has eroded.
Okay, let me give you some examples of fighters. Malik Scott fought on the weekend. I think Malik,
I was there.
Okay, and what did you think of the performance?
I spoke to Malik after the fight.
Okay.
Malik and I are very close. We shared a lot of time in Lennox camp together. I was there when he was a young man. In fact, I trained him for a couple of fights.
Wow.
And I think he's a young man that possessed a lot of talent.
Mm-hmm.
He possessed a lot of great boxing skills, but I feel that he hasn't gotten the best or the most mileage out of his skills. For whatever the reasons, I don't know, you know. But I think that in boxing, chemistry plays a big factor in a boxer's style, you know. I mean, Malik just doesn't seem to have gotten the best out of his style. I thought that he won that fight.
So did I. I thought he won the fight comfortably. I think he outboxed Glasgow, made him look. But Glasgow, for me, before the fight was on, he was typical European style and stiff, you know, coming forward, just throwing bombs, but really no thinking about what he was doing. And I knew once Malik started putting a jab on him and a bit of movement, there's no way he could have got off with those big punches.
Right. But I pointed out to Malik, if you watch the fight, Malik was throwing one, two, one body shot, one jab, one right hand, every now and then a 1-2. I told Malik you did just enough to make the fight close. You did just enough for the powers that be to rob you, to take the fight. You should have done more. You could have done more. Every time you feinted this guy, he was befuddled. He didn't know what to do. You could have punched off those things. You didn't do it. So, in my opinion, it was an opportunity missed to really highlight what he had. He highlighted his skills, but he didn't highlight any devastating power.
No.
People, when they think heavyweight, they think of power.
Yeah, and Malik, as nice the guy is, but you know, the one thing I see about Malik, let's take the power side for 1 second. The guy, from what I've seen, seems to take a good shot, seems to have good foundational boxing skills. He knows he's got a left jab, a right hand, a left hook, an uppercut. You know, he can box going in, he can fight inside, he can fight outside. He's got lateral movement. He's got a lot of things that a lot of the heavyweights today don't have. A lot of the heavyweights today rely on just raw power. But Malik, for me, seems to have a lot of a very good, solid skill base. Take the power away.
Yes, he has a skill base, but he's not utilizing what he could utilize. He should be, if he's not a big puncher, Muhammad Ali wasn't a big puncher, but if you look at Muhammad Ali's record and look at all of the knockouts that he had, he said he wasn't a big puncher. How did he get all these knockouts? He got those knockouts with activity.
Combination punching.
Combination punching. He got those knockouts with activity.
I mean, I noticed a couple of times in the fight he stunned Glasgow, but because he was only throwing, as you said, the 1-2, 1-2, you wouldn't get a knockout because you're stunning a guy, but you're not.
You watch the fight over again. Most of the punches he was throwing them one. Every now and then he threw 1-2. He just didn't open up.
So let me ask you a question. Let's put it another way. If Malik Scott was more of a combination puncher, his knockout ratio should, in theory, go up.
Yes, it would. And that's what, if I was training him, I would have him to punch more in combinations. I would train him to punch more in combinations. Because if you can't get that out of the fight in the gym, it's not going to happen in the fight.
No, absolutely
I
not.
see trainers all of the time trying to train fighters in the locker room. No, it's not going to happen there.
It's a bit late for that, isn't it?
Yes, I see it all the time.
Or they do it in the corners as well. They try and train them in the corner. Things they never do in fights. In training, in the gym, they try and give it to them in the fight. Right, get off the back foot and box.
That's a testimony to what I'm saying about the art form of boxing today. There are no real teachers. Not in the UK, not in Germany, not in Poland. None of these places, not in South Africa. You can't find no true expertise.
Where's it all gone?
The applications. Razor Ruddock could have been a beast. He could have been a beast.
But he only had one. His best punch was his left hand, wasn't it? He had one punch, was a left hand, left uppercut. That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, but Razor Ruddock has some nice combinations too. Razor would mix it up with you.
Oh yeah.
He would mix it up, but nobody never got behind him and said, "This is what you do good. Let's highlight that. Let's step on the gas with that." No, nobody ever did that. You know, he could have been a monster of a heavyweight. I would love to have gotten my hands on him in his heyday. He could have been a monster. I'm telling you, he could have been a dangerous guy. He could have hurt a lot of people.
So
if you look at the fighters, past 6'3" in history, let's say over the last 20 years, how many of them can endure shock?
Vitali Klitschko?
How many of them can stay on their feet?
Vitali Klitschko.
Vitali Klitschko is one of a very, very small group that can stand up and take those punches. And nobody really, really, really connected on him, aside from Lennox. Outside of Lennox, nobody really, really did no damaging punches with him.
Corey Sanders.
Corey Sanders landed a couple times, but he wasn't landing like Lennox was. And Corey Sanders, what was Corey Sanders, 6'4"?
Yes.
Corey Sanders was a rugged guy.
He was.
You know? But you won't find very many tall heavyweights that can endure shock, that can endure punishment. Most of them are in trouble the first time you land on them. They're in trouble. And I think it's because of their anatomy. You know? Not the idea that they don't have heart, or they don't have courage, or they don't have skills. It's just the anatomy is just not made for that.
Now, I've been saying a lot recently on the David Price debacle, if you want to call it. Now, a lot of the UK commentators are coming up with this, and these are professionals that are being paid. I come with this statement: it was a lucky punch. As far as I'm concerned, that punch that Tony Thompson threw and knocked Price down with, right? That was not a lucky punch. Thompson moved him into position. Price was following him around the ring. He got caught with a shot. That wasn't lucky.
In my opinion, when a boxer goes into a training camp from anywhere from 6 to 4 weeks, and he gets caught with a punch, that's a prescribed or planned punch. He's trained to throw that punch, and Price should have been trained to block it. So no, it's not a lucky punch. It's a precision. It's a professional punch that happens in a fight. Lucky punch my foot. You know, you're trained to fight and protect yourself in a fight. When it says protect yourself
at all times. Oh, they said. Well, the other thing is Frank Maloney recently has come out and said, and I couldn't believe it. He said that Price was hit with an illegal punch.
He got caught with a punch that was thrown in the heat of passion. It's not Tony. Tony didn't do that on purpose. He threw a punch. He threw a punch. He threw a punch, and Price was available to get hit by the punch. So Frank Maloney is full of baloney, you know? I mean, come on.
I mean,
I'm not. He got hit. He got with a punch because he wasn't alert. They said, wise men tread where only fools rush in. Wise men tread where only fools rush in. He was trying to throw a punch and got caught with a punch. Tony threw a punch. In my opinion, stay away from me punch, but still a professional shot. He didn't do anything. No.
Coming into the fight, what were your thoughts about Tony Thompson and David Price?
I picked Price to stop Tony Thompson aside of 7.
I thought Tony Thompson would get blown away the first time he got hit with a good punch. That's what I thought was going to happen. And
I knew he wouldn't get blown away right away, but I picked him inside of 7 because of his age. And then when I saw his weight, I said, no, Tony is not in shape.
That's what I was thinking as well.
He's not in shape, you know. I said Price is going to beat him in 7 rounds because he's not going to be able to carry no 265 pounds around the ring.
The time I realized, when I thought they could have been a shock was when I saw Price line him up with a right hand. Tony took it and started moving around the ring. And I saw Price just following him around the ring. I'm thinking, And you could see when Thompson was following Thompson around the ring, you could see he was wide open to a counter. His left arm was down low, and you could see he was open to a punch over the top or through the middle. And then bingo.
I still say, and I don't say this disrespectfully, I still say if any fighter is going to learn how to fight, they're going to have to come to America to learn it. Because America has the leading trainers in the world. If you look at the leading trainers, they're here in America. Klitschko, I think, opened the door to Europeans coming into America to learn more about boxing. Wladimir Klitschko, he opened the door. He said, listen, enough is enough. I got to go somewhere where I can learn both sides of the fence. He already knows how to fight because he's a gold medalist. Lennox opened the door when he came here and acquired the services of Emanuel Steward. Wladimir followed suit by doing the same thing.
Nigel Benn went to America to train as well after he got beat. Chris Eubank, another, went to America to train.
Well, I didn't have too much information on where they went to train or who they trained with.
Yes.
The most notable people were Lennox Lewis and Wladimir Klitschko. You know, as the heavyweight division goes, then so goes boxing. But I look at the European, I look even in Britain. Who are the top guns there? Who are the trainers? I think Adam Booth, he's fortunate to have a guy like David Haye. That's his claim to fame. But I don't see anything in particular that he does that's really standoutish, you know. I don't see anything particular that he's done with even Eddie Lee in the first fight. I'll bet it takes time for two people to work together to make changes. But I don't see any change. I don't see any great attributes that he has given to David Haye. David Haye does what David Haye does.
Adam Booth's style, in my opinion, and it's just a personal opinion, Adam Booth's style, from what I've seen, is good for guys who are explosive punchers and have got good reflexes and are fast on their feet. If you're not those things, the Adam Booth style doesn't seem to work, because if you look at George Groves and you look at David Haye, they're both guys that are heavy-handed and they can get away with jumping in and out and throwing them big shots.
Until they get hit.
Well, yeah, until they get hit. Well, yeah.
You understand? That doesn't go a long way. You know, boxing is a two-way street. You're throwing big punches, but other people can throw big punches. And in David Haye's case, not even big punches. All they got to do is land sharp. You know, sharp punches. You know, people look at boxing the way you got to be a big puncher to survive boxing. But a sharp puncher can live just as long because of the ability. I mean, Floyd Mayweather doesn't seem to be a big, heavy-handed puncher, but his punches come so fast, so quick, so sharp, so accurate, it makes him a dangerous puncher.
As you're on the subject of Floyd Mayweather for me seems a guy that carries a lot more power than people give him credit for, and that's why I think people get in the ring and start to have all these strategies. I'm going to put pressure on him, and then when they start finding...
Speed is power.
Yes.
Accuracy. Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather, two of the same kind of fighters. Speed and accuracy makes them dangerous. You understand? They throw punches, but they're accurate with 80% of their punches. They're accurate with them, you know? And that punch being sharp and landing, it could cause a lot of problems for a lot of fighters.
So what would be your advice to David Price now? He's 29 or 30 now, so he's cracking on a bit in terms of, you know, going to go back and fight development fights again. He needs to push.
How old is he?
I think he's 29 or 30 now.
That's young for a heavyweight fighter. He hasn't been beaten a lot. My suggestion to David Price is to get in with other people, to get with other people, to learn the logistics of boxing. You know? I mean, don't be afraid to say, look, I've got to go out and I've got to try other trainers. I got to go find other teachers. You know, you don't have to dump the people that's with you, but you have to bring in other people to teach you that there are other people in there punching. Especially when you find out about yourself that you don't take the best punch, that's all the more reason for you to get a better trainer to teach you more about defensive boxing. Boxing is a two-way street. You've got to be defense and offense. Roger Mayweather didn't take the best punch, but what he did was learn how to defend against taking punches. And after that, he became like a legend, you know?
So let's say you are the man that works in the corner of Wladimir Klitschko. Now, you look at David Price's situation. You as a trainer, let's say you get a telephone call tomorrow and David Price offers or says, you know what, James, I'd really like your experience. I'd like to have some of your experience. I'd like you to look after me. What would you do looking at David Price? What could you do to make the fundamental changes necessary for him to go on to become heavyweight champion of the world?
I would do the same thing that anybody would studying a critical situation. When you have people to look at cancer, you don't just walk in the door and start dealing with it. No, you go back to its origins. History is the best reward for all research. You look at the flaws of a Lennox Lewis prior to Emanuel Steward. You look at the flaws of a Wladimir Klitschko prior to Emanuel Steward. So you go back to the root of the problem. The problem here is that he got hit and he didn't show a very good ability to endure punches. So what you want to do is try to create a criteria where he doesn't take punches, where he's utilizing his height and his reach and his power.
Okay. Well, in that case, heavyweight boxing is probably the worst division to be in where you can't take a punch, I would say. Tell me if I'm wrong here. And if he is serious about fighting the likes of the Klitschkos, Deontay Wilder, another big puncher, he's going to need to have some sort of defensive technique. Is he able to come back, get that style, and still be able to take on challenging opponents? Because people won't accept David Price coming back and fighting a guy who's going to knock over in 2 rounds because he's not learning anything in that.
No, I think that it would be a big mistake to come back and fight the C level, C minus level, and even B minus level fight. I think that he's in the fight now, and he's got to prove himself to the fans, to the media alike, that he belongs there at the top. That he belongs in the raffle for the post Klitschko
era
lottery. He's got to prove it. For him to go back now and start looking for those C-level fighters and stuff, nobody's going to accept it because everybody's going to say as soon as he gets into a situation, he's going to fail. So I think the best thing to do now is to observe what he did wrong and start trying to correct it and move forward and start calling these guys out. I mean, he's got to call out the Deontay Wilders. He's got to call out the Joe Hanks. He got to call out anybody there that can make people believe that, yes, I belong in the post-Klitschko era. Because he's not going to beat the Klitschkos fighting the way he fought in that fight. He's not going to beat. I can tell you right now, it's not going to happen.
Fight fans would say, yeah, but Klitschko's not got a great chin, and as long as Price can land one of those big bombs in Klitschko's chin, it's all over. That's what fans would say. But
yeah, fans will say that there, but the fans are not the one that's got to eat the stuff to get to him. You know, you got to walk across a field. When I say you got to walk across a field to get to the Klitschko's chin, I mean a minefield. You know what happens when you step on a mine in a minefield? You hear a click. You hear a click. You always hear the click. And as long as your weight, the pressure on that click stays the same, you're safe. But the minute that you move, even the slightest inch or any kind of weight transfer, any kind of lesser weight on that click, boom, you're gone. So in other words, in order to get to Wladimir Klitschko's chin, the people that's trying to come to throw those bombs, they gotta remember that they gotta take some bombs too. They gotta survive the bombs that he's gonna give out. And believe me, Klitschko's gonna give out some bombs. He's not gonna go quietly into the night with one punch.
I mean, a lot of people are not.
See Sam Peter when Sam hit him?
Pardon?
Did you see the fight with Sam Peter when Sam put him down?
I did.
Two of those knockdowns. One of them was legitimate. But the other two were from the same kind of punches that Price got hit with. They were behind the temple. The second 2 knockdowns that Peter did with Wladimir Klitschko, Klitschko had to ask himself some serious questions when he's on that floor. Do I want to be champ? How can I be champ if I don't get up? He got up. He took some hard punches at the time. Samuel Peter was one of the most devastating punches in the heavyweight division at that time. He got up, and he came back to rock Samuel Peter. So I say those people who are critical about Wladimir Klitschko, they've got to remember, in order to get the Klitschko chip, they're going to have to eat something. They're going to be asked some questions about their own chin, because the guy is a good boxer, and he's a good puncher with both hands, left hook or the right,
and the uppercuts.
So he's not, only the people that's been in the presence of Wladimir Klitschko could possibly know how to beat him. Because the boxers that's facing Klitschko, they got no idea of what they're up against when they're facing him. They think that they're going into a gym or training camp for 3, 4, 5 weeks, and they're going to be ready to beat them. No, it's going to take more.
Clear something up for me, because I remember being in Derek Chisora's gym and having a conversation. And the conversation went along the lines of, well, you know, Derek was in really great shape. He was ready for the fight against Wladimir Klitschko. And Wladimir didn't fancy the fight against Derek because he looked in too good a shape. And Emanuel Steward himself thought the fight was too risky. What are your views on that?
Baloney. That's nonsense. Wladimir Klitschko wanted to knock out Chisora. Wladimir wanted to fight with both hands. Emanuel never engineered nothing, because Emanuel is the kind of guy, he was a modest guy. You know, he gave Derek his praise and respect, but secretly in their minds, they knew that they could beat Chisora, and they wanted to fight. And Wladimir still wanted to fight, even after Chisora lost, because Wladimir wanted to crack him. He wasn't going to take those kind of punches.
Is that a fight that could happen in the future?
Yeah. Provided that Chisora makes himself valuable again. You understand? He's got to make himself valuable again. You know? He was valuable because he talked a lot, and he came out and he gave Helena's such a problem. So he's got to put himself back in the running. He got himself knocked out by David Haye, so he's got to put himself back into the thick of the hunt. He's got to call out some good fighters and beat them.
Okay, we're going to move on. Another heavyweight from the UK is making his way. He's making a lot of noise at the moment, and he's on his way to Madison Square Garden on April the 20th against Steve Cunningham. Tyson Fury, your views?
Tyson Fury, to be a big guy, he's got good movement, good hand speed. I'm not convinced about his stamina, you know.
Okay.
His punching power, like I said, he's a big guy. He boxes more like a light heavyweight. So, yeah, he's a guy to be reckoned with until he's been defeated. I think there's some things that can use some modification, but he's a good fighter.
How do you think he's going to do against Steve Cunningham?
Steve is a small guy, quick. He's getting up in age, so it might be a little problem for Steve at first. It depends on the kind of fight that Tyson Fury forces Steve to fight. Everything is dependent on what kind of fight that Tyson Fury can force Steve to fight. That will determine the outcome of the fight.
Now, there are a lot of things being said about the Tyson Fury-Cunningham fight being resembling Jerry Cooney and Michael Spinks. You would know more about that fight than I would. Tell me about that fight, and tell me if there is a resemblance between those two and Fury and Cunningham.
Michael Spinks can punch with both hands. Stevie Cunningham does not have the reputation of being a puncher. He's a good boxer with a lot of courage. But Michael Spinks could crack. Michael Spinks was a jittery, nervous-like fighter. Had a hair trigger. Whenever you threatened him, you had to watch out for incoming. Uppercuts, hooks, overhands. He was a spontaneous fighter. He would throw anything out of nowhere. And he had an awkward style. Stevie Cunningham has a more regulated style. He's a classic boxer. The jab, jab, right hand. He's a textbook boxer. Michael Spinks was a herky-jerky, dangerous fighter. He would throw punches from any angle, anywhere, and he could crack. And when he caught Jerry Cooney, that's what hurt Cooney. Cooney didn't see the punches coming. He didn't see the punches coming, And when he got caught, he couldn't get out of trouble. Michael put together quick, solid, devastating combinations and got him out of there. So I don't like it, the two styles.
In terms,
Tyson Fury is more of a mover, more of a boxer. Like I said, he boxes like he's a light heavyweight. He's a big guy that moves like a light heavyweight.
So how do you see the fight actually going for you? If you're training the two fighters, the strategy for Cunningham to try and beat Fury, what would you be telling Cunningham?
I would tell Cunningham to force Tyson to throw punches. I would tell Cunningham to step to Tyson. People say move away from him, but I would tell him to move to him. Because if he moves away from him, then
he's gonna get
Tyson can set the tempo. Tyson can set the pace. You understand? Steve needs to engage him with speed and accuracy. Double, triple jabs, overhand rights, uppercuts. Engage him, you know? Not so much wrestling, but in and out strategy. Go in, go out to the right, go in, go out to the left, fade him, steal something and move him around the ring. Make Tyson exert energy. He's a big guy, and I don't care what kind of training he does, he's going to get tired in that fight. Steve have to use speed and diplomacy to beat him, you know? But he cannot lay back and let Tyson set the tempo. So I would have Steve moving in and out, using a lot of combinations, making this man work for every round that he got. Other than that day he could. And then, you know, Tyson's such a young guy, you know? He's a young guy. And I think that he can land enough shots to possibly win a unanimous decision over Steve. But Steve could possibly win the fight if he has it in him to put together those combinations repeatedly in the fight.
Is there anything in his career to suggest he could do that?
In whose career?
Steve Cunningham.
Steve Cunningham has a reputation of getting in fights when he shouldn't get in fights. He's a fighter, you know? And it doesn't always make good for his style. He's a great boxer. But if you want to fight, Steve Cunningham is the kind of guy that will fight. I know him personally. He's a tough guy, and he's not going to back down from nobody. And sometimes that's to his undoing. In this fight, he'll have to use a little more diplomacy. He's in with a very young guy, and he's going to have to use some other application other than just trying to be a tough guy.
Would you be impressed if Tyson were to go out there and knock Cunningham out? Would that be making a statement to you, or would that be, well, he's just knocking out a cruiserweight anyway?
First of all, nobody knocks out Steve Cunningham.
Okay.
If he was the one to knock him out, it would be impressive if he could knock him out. Because I don't care about the size. Steve has enough guile and experience to avoid being knocked out. He has all the ability that he needs to stay in that fight. I see the fight going to a decision for either one of them, depending upon the kind of fight plan that they utilize inside the ring.
What would you advise Tyson to do in this fight?
I would advise Tyson to utilize his physical attributes. Get behind a good stiff jab. A good stiff jab. I don't care how fast the guy is. I don't care how strong a guy is. I don't care how hard a guy hits. Nothing is like a good stiff left jab.
Absolutely.
Double the jab, triple the jab, not one, the way Malik Scott was doing. You need to double the jab and then mix it with something, some kind of movement, and then double the jab again. Nobody wants nobody using a double, triple jab and then use the double, triple jab again. Nobody wants that. I would tell him to control the smaller guy. I would tell him to utilize the jab to control his strengths. That jab can control the strengths of Stevie Cunningham.
Okay.
Cunningham jab can also control what Tyson does. You know, he can control what Tyson, because he's a small guy, that could be an asset to him. I saw Ola Afolabi.
Yes.
and Tyson Fury boxed in the Wladimir Klitschko's training camp.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them boxed in the training camp, and it was a pretty furious pace they had going, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he was bombing Ola Afolabi. Ola Afolabi never let up. He never let up. And going down the stretch, I thought Ola Afolabi was starting to come on, you know. Even though he's a lot smaller, he just had the drive and the heart. And he kept pushing, he kept pushing, he kept pushing. And I thought going down the stretch, he was getting the best of it. And they pulled Tyson Fury out. I was anxious to see what 2 or 3 more rounds. You know?
Hold on. Sorry about that. Telephone.
I was anxious to see what 2 or 3 more rounds would have brought, you know? Because I felt Ola Afolabi was coming on. I felt that Fury, I'll bet I didn't know what kind of shape Fury was in. But I felt that Ola had taken the best that Fury had to offer and that he was coming on. And they pulled Fury out. And it was like a big letdown because I wanted to see what was going to happen. But again, you never know what kind of shape that Fury was in. But it was exciting. It was exciting to see them two spar.
So how did Fury look to you in your opinion?
Like I said, he was boxing like he was a light heavyweight. But there's a price. When you're fast, when you're quick, and when you're using a lot of energy like that, it's a price because you got to be in good shape or you're going to get tired. You know? That's why a lot of guys try to make sluggers into boxers or boxers into sluggers. No, you can't. You got to take what you got. You got to look at the fighter on the floor and say, well, this is what this guy is. This is what I've got. So I got to work with what I got. I don't want to spend a year or 6 months trying to teach a slugger how to box. I want to teach a slugger how to slug, how to be effective at what he does. I'm not going to try to change something that nature made. A lot of guys try to change that. They try to teach sluggers how to box. I said to different trainers, even with Emanuel Steward, when Emanuel was working with Prince Naseem Ahmed,
yes,
Emanuel felt that the Prince should stand up and be more of a standing kind of boxer. I said, Emanuel, this guy's been like this his whole career, ever since he's a child. Leave that shit alone and let him do what he does. And I felt that was a nail in his coffin when they try to start standing him up, teaching him the standing style. No, let him do what he does. The Prince was fine until Oscar Suarez and Emanuel Steward. I felt they was, telling him different things about, how to be a correct southpaw. No, let him do what he does because it's effective and he's winning.
The Prince was fighting. He started getting more flat-footed, and what I noticed when he moved to America, he became more flat-footed and more reliant on his big shots, rather than what he was doing before, being flashy, elusive, hitting people with shots they didn't see. Now he was being a target, standing right in front of guys and having wars.
That was the influence. That was the influence. That was the influence. I felt that was a mistake, and as a result, we got a premature end to his career.
He was a very good fighter and such a showman as well.
Yes, that's what boxing should be. Exciting, thrilling. When people look at a guy, I used to love to see the guy box. He would have beaten Gamboa. He'd have knocked Gamboa out. My opinion, he'd have knocked that Gamboa out.
Well, the sort of power he's got, he would have knocked a lot of guys out. That one-punch power was devastating as a featherweight.
But it was effective most when he had that agile movement.
Yes.
It was effective most there,
He took a decent punch as well. A lot of people said he didn't have a chin. He took some good punches.
Yeah, he took some good punches. Of course he did. And he had a lot of heart,
Yes.
That doesn't hurt none.
No, it doesn't. The American fans seem to like it.
When a person gets hit, that's a big part of the fight game, is to be able to compose yourself and go on with the fight. And not many people can do that. Not many people can do that. Once they get hit, they say, it's time to get out of here, Very few people that can take those shots and stay in there. You know, they can say what they want to say, but very few people can do it. The jury is out on Tyson Fury. The jury is out, you know. We have to see going down the road what he's really made of, you know. I'd like to see Tyson Fury fight Vitali Klitschko right now at 41.
How do you think the fight would go?
I think Vitali would beat him. I think Vitali would decision him.
Think it'd be a good fight?
Yeah, I think it'll be a good fight. I think the styles will make it a good fight. I think the styles will make it a good fight.
Well, while you talk about Vitali Klitschko, you may as well mention David Haye. Thoughts?
David Haye didn't do anything with Wladimir Klitschko, so what makes him think that he should get a shot at Vitali Klitschko?
Oh, well, Vitali...
I'm saying, what did he do in that fight to assure the possibility of getting Vitali's fight? He shouldn't even be saying nothing. It was a humiliating and embarrassing. He didn't do a single thing to deserve it. A win over Chisora does not solidify a position to fight Vitali Klitschko. David Haye is a good puncher, but he didn't show the guile and the courage in the Wladimir Klitschko fight. He had an opportunity to fight, and he didn't. You know, he just blamed it on his toe.
Coming into the fight, what were your views on the fight?
I thought that Wladimir would knock him out.
Really?
Yeah. I thought Wladimir would knock him out.
Why? Why do you think he didn't?
He just couldn't get that kind of shot in on him. And at the same time, he had to be respectful of Davis' punch. So I think a lot of factors, and the rain, you know, there was some problems with Wladimir getting good footing to crack him. You know, David never stood still to get cracked. So to his credit, he fought a smart fight, but he didn't fight a very exciting fight.
Well, maybe he got cracked with the first punch. He thought, you know what? I'm not so sure. Let me just get out of it. Let me go around this fight for 12 rounds and not get knocked out, which is a smart thing to do. Who wants to get knocked out?
Yeah, but he could have made a lot of friends if he had went out there and fought. You know, they just said he's just another big mouth guy that talked his way into a multi-million-dollar payday, and he didn't stand up. He didn't do that. So nobody's really backing him to fight Vitali Klitschko.
Do you think the fight will happen, or do you think it's not going to happen?
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think Vitali is interested in it. You know, I don't think it's going to happen because he didn't do anything. If he had done something, I think he would do it, but he didn't do nothing. He just went out there and stuck the house out, you know? So why should he give the guy a chance to get lucky and try to fight him? I think if David Haye hit Vitali, nothing wouldn't happen anyway.
And Vitali fighting Haye, do you think Vitali could get the knockout?
No.
No?
No.
Why?
I don't think nobody knocks out Vitali.
No, I'm talking about the other way around. Vitali knocking Haye out.
It's hard to say because you can't gauge it. I think that Haye doesn't take a good shot. He doesn't have a reputation for taking a good shot. But the problem is, does Vitali still have those attributes where he can land those kind of punches, where he can move like that? Last couple of fights has been lackluster. He hasn't really shown any enthusiasm. So he may be getting tired, got his mind on politics. All of those things could be contributing factors in that he doesn't land those punches. So
okay. One other fight I must talk about, Deontay Wilder. Getting a lot of stick at the moment for the sort of opposition he's getting. And I've already done a video previously about saying Deontay Wilder's a joke. Again, I said this to you before, not because I think Deontay Wilder, it's nothing to do with the guy personally, but 27 fights, 27 knockouts, been knocked down by guys that nobody's ever heard of, but yet he's in that sort of David Price category, knocking everybody out, but not going the distance with anybody, not learning anything, and then soon he'll have to fight somebody decent, and you can see him get knocked over. Your thoughts?
We had Deontay Wilder in camp with us for the Tony Thompson rematch for Wladimir Klitschko and Tony Thompson. I believe that was it. No, we had him in camp for Marius Wack.
Yes.
He was one of the sparring partners there. And pretty sturdy, pretty enthusiastic young man. But again, the jury is out on him because of the kind of caliber of fighters that he's been in with, you know? And it makes you wonder, does his people know something about him that everybody else doesn't know about him?
This is my point. I was told many years ago by my trainer in Miami, and he said to me, if a fighter is having these fights and he's not fighting guys in his own weight category, or he's fighting guys that can't punch back, or he's not being taken down a route where he's fighting decent opposition, the management have made a decision about that fighter, or they know something in the gym that's been exposed in the gym they don't want the public to know. But at the same time, they think they're trying to make as much money as they can before they throw him into the wolves.
Well, it's like I said, you know, you look at Lennox Lewis facing Gary Mason, 13, 14 fights. You look at Tim Witherspoon facing Larry Holmes, 13, 14 fights. He's fighting a primed Larry Holmes. Tim Witherspoon didn't have an amateur career. He fought a prime Larry Holmes. And if you look at the guys right after the Holmes fight that Witherspoon fought, James Broad and those guys, those was top-notch heavyweight fighters that Witherspoon fought to find his way back to the championship and won it. So I'm asking myself, what does the team of Wilder show? Is it good business sense, or do they know something that other people don't know? And either way, they've got to let him out the cage soon, because nobody's going to believe in that man. He's going to wind up being in the same shoes that Malik Scott is in. Malik Scott is just coming to primetime television with 35, 36 fights now. And then when he came to primetime, the best he got was a draw. Even though I thought he won the fight, he got a draw. Partially because of what he didn't do. So such thing as riding past your stop. If you're on a train or a bus, there's such thing as riding past your stop. It's a certain stop you got to get off at and make a statement and stay, you know? And then sometimes you go past that stop and then it's too late. Malik Scott got 36 fights, and who knows him? Tyson Fury, Price, Helenas, you know, the Bulgarian kid. What's his name? All of these guys are over Malik Scott. Malik Scott's been there long before them. If I were Malik Scott, I'd be calling those guys out. I would stay the course. I would be calling those guys out. Otherwise, they're just going to forget about him. He had an opportunity here, and he didn't take advantage of it. I told him that you should have taken advantage of that. But you can't go back to fighting C-level opposition now. You have to fight the powers that be to establish yourself as a top-notch contender for the post-Klitschko era.
So where does Tony Thompson fit into this now?
Tony Thompson is a wild card. He's a wild card. They can say he got lucky or whatever, but he's back in the running. That's what happened with heavyweights. Heavyweights are the only guys that can go out and rob a bank, and they'll go there. If he's a good fighter, they'll go to the jail and say, listen, you promised not to rob banks again. We get you out of this shit, and we can keep on rolling. You know? But you got to promise, don't be a bad boy. Don't rob no more banks, and we get you out of this shit. That's what happens.
You heard the back and forth between Fury and Thompson, and Cunningham has said, Tyson Fury said, as long as he gets past Cunningham, Thompson will be the next fight.
Tyson said that?
Yes.
Yeah, well, he's going to be in for a fight because Tony Thompson will be in shape for Tyson. Tony Thompson is a stubborn guy, and he will fight. He just can't beat Klitschko. He can't beat Wladimir Klitschko. He can't beat him.
Would you fancy him against Vitali?
I definitely don't think he can beat Vitali.
Even at aging Vitali?
They're the same age.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. That's pretty true. Just thought about that.
You got one old guy fight another old guy. I think Vitali beats him. I think Vitali is a lot more aggressive than Wladimir.
Yeah.
Wladimir is a calculated puncher. Vitali is a gambler, you know. Vladimir is gonna focus on cracking a guy, and sometimes Vladimir won't punch as much because he know when I punch, I'm gonna have right my scopes, and when I crack him, he's going out. You know, Vitali is more of a gambler. He just goes out. He'll throw the grocery list at you. You know.
Okay.
You know?
Let's move down the weight divisions. We'll go down to cruiserweights and Eddie Chambers. What's the news on him?
The news on Eddie Chambers is we're ready to fight, but these guys won't step up and fight. Nobody wants to fight.
Well, what happened to this fight he was having against the light heavyweight champion of the world? What's his name? At Madison Square Garden. I thought that was meant to happen. Yeah, Lebedev. Yes. What happened there?
I understand that Lebedev has been forced to fight the old guy from Panama, Guillermo Jones.
Okay.
I heard something about Don King, one of the first bid, and said that he's forced to fight this guy. How's that guy sit on the title for 4 years and have 2 fights? So that's a joke, you know. That's a big joke. But Eddie Chambers is prepared to fight any cruiserweight and even any heavyweight in the world that want to fight right now. We want to fight. Eddie Chambers gives me the courage to come to your show and says that he's in a position where he wants to fight anybody. Matter of fact, the fight between Sturvane and
Areola. It's off now.
It was just canceled. Eddie Chambers offered to step up and fight Sturvane. We haven't heard anything.
So be honest with me. Why is it Eddie's not getting fights? Tell me.
Because he has boxing skills. Nobody wants to fight a good boxer. He has boxing skills that has allowed him to live in the land of the giants forever. He's been a cruiserweight his whole career, living in the land of the giants, and nobody wants to box him.
So I mean, are you just gonna wait for somebody to make it happen, or are you gonna actually go out there and take some fights and get Eddie back some exposure so he can build some sort of a following and get a fight? What's gonna happen?
Main Events is Eddie's promoter.
Right.
So we have to wait for Main Events to come up with a plan for us to go out and fight. But they are in the process of working on that right now. Eddie should be fighting May or June at the latest.
That's good to know, because fans will want to know how Eddie's doing. And
yeah, we're gonna go out and fight. Eddie has been training and he wants to fight.
Well, it'll be good for him to come back against a good opponent. I mean, like everyone knows, because fighting some sort of C-level opponent is really not going to do Eddie any favors.
Any of them. The guy Tarver last fought, what is his name?
Oh, yes. I spoke to his publicist the other day, Emily Pandelakis. Coyote. I said to get that fight on.
Or either the winner of I can't come to mind. These guys are so just Olaf Falabi and Huck. We want the winner of that. We want Eddie should have to go out there and with a broom like a janitor. He should be able to get those guys. We take the winner of that. We'd like the winner of that.
So you versus Huck or Afolabi would be a good fight.
Afolabi, Coyote, Huck, any of those are a good fight. These are good fighters and they want to fight. I got a lot of respect for those guys.
Well, why doesn't Eddie open his mouth and start shooting his mouth off like a David Haye?
That's not Eddie's style.
Well, maybe he has to change his style to get the fights he needs. I don't know.
Eddie, you know what? I've never introduced that kind of stuff to a fighter. I let a fighter be a fighter and I do the talking, you know? And I know what Eddie tells me. He wants those guys to step up. Those are good fights for us. Those are good fights to highlight Eddie's ability and his style, you know? They can say this or that or that or this, but Eddie will fight any one of the heavyweights right now that wants to fight. In fact, Eddie asks me all the time, you know, would he'd like to fight Wladimir Klitschko again. He wants to fight Wladimir Klitschko. He wants to fight. He says, I'm still convinced that I can beat Wladimir Klitschko.
Why doesn't he fight Vitali instead?
Nobody wants to give him the fight. He'll fight either one of them. He'll fight either one of them, you know. He wants to fight.
So we still wait to hear about Eddie Chambers' next fight. While I just hope, because of all the fans out there who want to see Eddie Chambers, I just hope and pray that he's back in the ring soon, as you say, and fighting a good opponent and getting the opportunities he deserves. He's got all the skills.
I believe that we'll be back in the ring pretty soon. I'm pretty sure that we'll be back in the ring pretty soon, and that fighting those top guys. We want those top guys. We don't want to. I mean, I don't care who it is. Eddie Chambers is a great fighter. He's a great fighter. He wants to go out and highlight his skills. So Huck, Afalabi, Coyote, those guys out there, we want those guys. We don't want to avoid them or any other cruiserweights. Anybody out there, Lebedev, if they want to fight, let's fight.
Good.
Main Events has a deal with NBC Sports. It definitely would be a televised fight.
Right.
So they either want somebody to see their skills, or they're nervous about their skills compared to Eddie Chambers' skills. So why would they turn down an opportunity to go on network television? That's what the sport is all about, being seen. Eddie Chambers wants to fight.
Is it a case of, I'm going to throw it another way, is it a case of, well, Eddie Chambers wants to fight, but is turning down certain amounts of money that's given? Is it that? Is money an issue here?
No, certainly not.
Money's not an issue. Right. I've got to ask the question.
Money is not an issue. I mean, you know, if money was an issue, we could have turned down the GRENADA fight. You know, money is not the issue. Eddie wants to go out there to highlight his skills. Eddie is willing to work to gain his pay, to gain his notoriety in the divisions. You understand? Like I said, he'll fight at heavyweight, he'll fight at cruiserweight. Whoever wants to step up and get that, Eddie will fight. You know?
What would you think? What about Eddie going to Europe and fighting in Europe?
That's possible.
That'd be good. Get him going. I did mention it to him once on Twitter.
That's very possible.
He should go on a European circuit and just beat everyone in Europe.
Listen, Eddie wants to fight.
Look,
if it means going to Germany, if it means going to Britain, Eddie wants to fight.
Let me put it to you this way, Mr. Bashir. Do you remember you must remember Ronald Winky Wright, right?
Yeah.
Right. Winky Wright was shut out from America for years because he had a boring style. Okay?
Yeah.
Although he's very skillful, Winky. Winky came to Britain and he beat about 3 or 4 British guys. All right?
Right.
Winky Wright fought across Europe. And then by getting that, eventually Winky got a chance to become champ of the world and fight and be known as a fighter. But he had to go through Europe. And he had to fight in Europe because that was the only way that people would recognize not Eddie Chambers, Winky Wright.
I made mention to Eddie Chambers about going to Europe.
I mentioned to him on Twitter at least when he started following me on Twitter. I said to him, look, go and do a European tour. Go fight in Europe. Instead of sitting there and saying, well, I want to fight. Go fight in Europe. You need to get yourself a European network. You know, people know it.
I spoke to Eddie about that extensively.
Yes.
I spoke to him about going to Europe, fighting Germany, Britain. I spoke to him about it, and he's all for it.
Do it. I think
he's all for doing it. Eddie Chambers is one of the easiest boxers that I have ever worked with in my career as a trainer. Just a great individual to work with. You know, affable individual. I just love working with him because he makes my job easy.
Well,
you know, here's a guy at the top of his game, and if I say go left, Eddie goes left. If I say go right, Eddie goes right.
Well,
you know, we never have a problem. We never have a problem communicating in the ring or out of the ring. We don't have a problem communicating.
Well, here's a new instruction, Mr. Bashir. Tell him go Europe.
Yeah, I want to go. but I want to go. I want to, especially to Germany.
Yes.
I want to.
That's the place to go in Europe, to be honest. If not UK, then Germany.
I want to go. Eddie wants to go. We don't want to avoid anybody. We want to fight. Eddie is a throwback fighter. He wants to fight and earn his stripes. He doesn't want to avoid anybody. Eddie wants to compete with the top guns out there. In fact, Eddie has made mention and said that he wants to fight Deontay Wilder. You understand? He wants to be in with Deontay Wilder. I'm instructing him to go to the Cruiserweight division. But if a fight came up where Deontay and Eddie could fight, we'd take that fight. We'd take that fight. You know, we'd take that fight in a heartbeat because it's a good fight. You know, it's a good fight. We would step up and take that fight. You know, I feel that Eddie could do good in the fight, and it'll give Deontay a chance to highlight his own skills, you know? But Eddie Chambers, I told you, he's a throwback fighter. He's not trying to avoid nobody. He keeps saying, I want Wladimir Klitschko. I said, Eddie, come on, man. We need to go to Cruiserweight. Eddie says, I'll go to Cruiserweight, like you said, but I want Wladimir Klitschko. He keeps telling me, I want to fight Wladimir Klitschko. He said, this guy is fighting that Wladimir now, Ironetta.
Well, tell me about Pionetta, because nobody knows who the hell Pionetta is.
He was in Kentwoods a couple of times, you know. But Eddie is upset about it. He says, look, this guy's getting the fight. Nobody knows him. I should be the guy fighting Klitschko, you know?
Then why doesn't he fight somebody in heavyweight division? Why doesn't he fight someone in the top 10 instead of going down to Cruiserweight? Get himself back in the mix again. My God, Tony Thompson. Tony Thompson fought Klitschko twice. Twice.
Yeah.
So
I know. But Eddie, I'm instructing him. It's me. I'm instructing him because I felt that Eddie was a cruiserweight his whole career. He's doing it because it's a good idea. But his heart is the heart of a heavyweight. He wants to fight the fights. He doesn't want to be in the heavyweight division just fighting fights. He wants to fight the fights that make the difference. So if Joe Hanks, Price, those guys come.
You know what would be a good fight? You should try and get a fight with Derek Chisora. That'd be a good fight.
Yeah, but
wouldn't it? I mean, you don't think it'd be a good fight? You don't think Chisora come forward fight against Eddie who's going to slip
out? I don't know that it would do anything for Eddie Chambers. You know, I mean, like I said, he doesn't want to be the custodian of the heavyweight division. He want to put fights that's going to take his fight game to another level. Chisora has just lost the fight. We don't want to fight the guy like that. You know, Eddie Chambers is a little more elite than that.
Okay, all right.
Joe Hanks, Deontay Wilder, those kind of guys, those undefeated guys, young guys.
But all right, to be fair, Deontay Wilder, you and yourself believe that there's something in Deontay Wilder, there's a deficiency there. So Deontay Wilder, and then Joe Hanks is another guy that you don't believe's got as much heart as he should for the heavyweight division. So there's two guys there that could be easy pickings.
No, I don't get into whether a guy has heart or not. I stay away from that. Because it takes some heart to get us out of the ring. So I stay away from that.
Okay.
But there are some minuses about their characters.
There you go.
You understand? Some minuses where they haven't faced the kind of opposition that I think that they are capable of facing.
All right.
But Joe Hanks is a guy that's an American guy that it would be worth it to see how him and Eddie Chambers. This is a fight that Joe Hanks could use and Eddie could use.
I'll give you a name. That's European, well-known, considered dangerous, Pulev. He beats Pulev, he's right in the mix. IBF, right in the mix. He could gate crash the party because Tyson Fury is fighting Cunningham. If Tyson beats Cunningham, supposedly he's got to fight Pulev. Why doesn't he fight Pulev? Pulev is now not fighting Adamek because that fight's fallen through. Slip Eddie in there.
Yeah, we can fight Pulev. I would be game for something like that there. That's a dangerous fight. It's a dangerous fight. And yeah, we'd fight Pulev.
You think it's a dangerous fight?
Yeah, it's a dangerous fight for Eddie Chambers and for Pulev.
I've looked at Pulev, yeah, and he seems to have some power, but he's got a crude style and he's very flat-footed. He's got defensively not great, and he looks the sort of guy that will be timed very easy for left jabs in his face all night long. Very much like Glasgow.
Yeah. Listen. I would like a fight between Pulev and Eddie Chambers. You can post that.
Let's go with that. Let's try and make that happen. Pulev.
Look. Pulev.
Yes.
Joe Hanks.
Yeah.
Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
Those are three fights that I would suggest.
Let's narrow this down. Joe Hanks, in terms of marketability, who knows Joe Hanks? Not being disrespectful, I know Joe. Joe's a nice guy. Let's take Joe out. Deontay Wilder in terms of a name, undefeated.
But
nobody knows him really. Joe Hanks. Yeah, come on, nobody knows Joe Hanks.
Well, yeah, they don't know Joe Hanks because Joe Hanks haven't stepped up.
Right, but Deontay Wilder, everyone knows for the big knockouts. So he's got that pedigree of 27 fights, 27 knockouts. Can he make it 28 against Chambers? Chambers is, well, he's the guy that fought Wladimir Klitschko. He's on his way back. You can build the story up. Two Americans fighting. The prospect versus the veteran.
I'm all for it.
I can promote the fight. I can sell the fight. Hey, you need to make me a promoter. What do you say?
Yeah. Look, listen. Those are fights that we would be interested in. But certainly I would suggest for him to go back and just fight Chisora and guys like that there, Helenas. I don't want those kind of fights. Pulev is interested in Pulev.
Do you know something? Do you know what I would love to do? If I had the money, do you know what I'd do? I'd do a similar sort of contender series sort of thing, yeah? And get the top 8 or the top 6 heavyweights in the world. Like how they did with the Super 6, something like that. And make sure the best fought the best. And just cut the rubbish out and everyone fought. And Eddie Chambers would be in that room and be one of those fighters. So they would know, those guys that want to fight would fight. Let's get it on.
Let me put it like this here. For Pulev, Deontay Wilder, Eddie Chambers, you will see the best of Eddie Chambers.
He has to be at his best. He'll have to be at his best.
You will see the best of him. You will see the best of him. The guy, he wants fights. He thinks that he thinks and feels that I belong right there in the mix. Vianetta don't belong there. Eddie says, I belong there with Wladimir Klitschko. I went 12 rounds with him. I got caught up in the last 5 seconds, got myself knocked out. But I was in there for 12 rounds. I want to go in there and fight him again. He constantly says this to me. And I try to steer him away from it, but he got his mind made up. If I'm the fighter that I say I am, I need to beat Klitschko to do it. He wants to fight.
Let's hope that the suggestions that have been made there. And by the way, if you've got contacts with main events, tell them to give me a call if they're a bit stuck in main events. If they're stuck with getting a fighter, let me know and I can give them a few suggestions.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have no problem contacting main events. Just go to their website.
Yeah, I'll give them a call. Say, hey, get Chambers Pulev, make it happen.
Yeah. You know, Eddie would be glad to take any fight right now. I'm telling you, this guy wants to fight.
It'd be good to have him back. Good to have him back.
One of the few fighters that I've been with in my career that wants to fight, and he's not avoiding anybody.
You know, the other guy he could have fought was Seth Mitchell.
Oh, Seth Mitchell didn't want it. He didn't want it. He had plenty of opportunities. And he begged for that fight. You know? I mean, Eddie doesn't, he's not trying to avoid. He's been calling for Seth Mitchell. In fact, he saw it before Chaz got him.
Yeah, you
Eddie
say that.
He wouldn't want that fight. You know? Eddie said that he would want that fight. He wanted it before Chaz got it. Chaz went out there, clipped him, had him in trouble, and couldn't finish. You know? Jonathan Banks should be able to go out there and do the same thing all over again.
That'd be a good fight. Chambers versus Banks. That'd be another good fight as well.
Yeah, that'd be a very good fight. That'd be a very, very good fight. You know? That's not beyond us. We're not in boxing to make friends. We do that after boxing. You know? So
they had to make money and become champions.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Banks versus Chambers. That'd be a good fight.
That'd be a good fight. Definitely a good fight. Right, moving on. So we've talked all about the heavyweights. There's 2 fights coming up. Mayweather versus Robert the Ghost Guerrero. Your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a tougher fight than people think it's going to be.
So do I. I think the southpaw style is one. Southpaw, aggressive. He's pretty strong. Punches in combinations. Could be a good fight.
If his skin holds up, then Mayweather's in. If his skin holds up, Guerrero's in the fight big time. I think Floyd will outclass him going down the stretch. Because one thing that's one of Floyd's greatest assets is his style and his great great conditioning. He's always in top condition. And he bests a lot of these fighters going down the stretch. A lot of them can't maintain that pace. So I think that going down the stretch, his style will come into great effect along with his stamina and overcome the ghost and maybe even stop him late.
There's something I've been looking at recently.
But the skin is a big factor.
Absolutely. There's something I've been looking recently about Floyd Mayweather and his style. And the left jab, it seems to me a person with a very good left jab could cause him a lot of problems. And the reason why I'm saying this,
I've always told the fighters that I train, I don't care what a guy is doing. I don't care how fast he is, how hard a punch he is, how accurate he is. I've always told him a jab neutralizes all of that.
Because I watched Cotto.
Cotto to show it.
I watched him fight Cotto, yeah? And the punch Cotto hit him the most wasn't the hooks to the body, wasn't the big swinging hooks to the head. It was the left jab. Just the left jab, pushing Floyd's head back.
Now, you know what? Now everybody says, oh, it's the jab. But I've been saying that for 10, 12 years. I learned this here in 1958. My first trainer was named Frank Shirley. And he said, I don't care how good a guy is, a good continuous jab breaks up everything he's doing. He can be slick, he can be quick, he can be a hard puncher, but that good jab, Ali versus Lister, that good jab broke up everything that Sonny was trying to do. Everything he was trying to do. Every single thing he was trying to do, that jab busted it up. So it doesn't matter. Cotto was just the guy who utilized his jab the most because everybody was looking for other ways to fight Floyd. But Cotto said, no, I'm going to stay with the boxing 101, the good basic jab.
So I think, De La Hoya when he fought Mayweather, when he was using the jab.
He just got away from it.
Yeah, the first 6 rounds he was fine. And then after that, down the stretch.
He neutralized him. The corner didn't have enough sense. Again, no diplomacy in the corner. I see some of the top fighters in the world with corners that's not quite up to the ability of the fighter. All he had to do was tell De La Hoya, use your height and use your jab, and you've got this guy neutralized. Because Floyd was so preoccupied with Oscar's left hook, he wasn't doing nothing. He was losing the fight. He was so preoccupied with Oscar's left hook that he couldn't get off, and Oscar had him under control with a jab because of the height and the reach. Floyd couldn't even, those first couple of rounds, Floyd couldn't even reach him.
Yeah, yep. And Oscar, but Oscar, once again in a big fight, his stamina lets him down the stretch.
Yeah.
So, and the other question is, everyone's talking about Floyd Mayweather. He's got a 6-fight deal now. He's 36 years old. He's definitely got to be slowing down. He can't be the same fight he was when he was 26. He's 36 now.
You got to look at it like this here. Here's a guy that doesn't abuse his body. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. You know, he's an athlete. So that could buy him a few extra years, too. You know?
He's getting hit more now. I mean, that Cotto fight, he got hit more now then. His style has changed. And I argue this, and people say to me I'm talking rubbish, but his style has changed. Floyd Mayweather before used his legs a lot more. Now he's actually standing in his pocket with these fighters and rolling. Before he used to move more. So he's there to get hit more.
Yeah. I think it happened in that particular fight. We have to see what he does in the Guerrero fight to see if that's his new style. But again, I told you, this guy doesn't abuse his body. I've been around him a couple of training camps, and he's a beast, man. He works hard. And being the old-fashioned guy I am, it doesn't get better than a worker.
Yeah.
I like my guys. Some guys that I work with said they was going to a concert last night. I was upset about that. You know, I was upset about it. I texted the manager or the promoter and said, look, these guys are going to a concert tonight. I don't like that. And the guy said, oh, they're going to be with me. I'm taking them there. It's a charity thing. We're only going to be there for an hour. I said, okay, I understand now. I'll let it go because the promoter was doing it. But I still don't like the guys I'm training to be busy.
Yeah.
I want you to go into an atmosphere and stay there. But sometimes you want to unwind a little bit. I say, okay, go. But my thing is, once we go to training camp, we in the camp until the fight.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I don't even want your cousin, your mother, them around. Just leave it alone until the fight's over.
The fight's over.
Know? It's best. Because you'll spend 6-7 months training a guy, or 6-7 weeks training a guy, and at the last minute, somebody will come in and say, you know, you got to watch out for the guy's left hook. Everything goes down the tubes. Everything I've been working on for the past 6-7 weeks, some jerk walk in and say, hey, you know, you got to watch out for the guys over here, right? And everything in the whole plan is messed up now. You know, he either forgot the plan, now he's just concentrating on the guys over here, right? Or the guy's left hook, or the guy's uppercut. Because somebody that don't know nothing about boxing just walked in and messed, get your ass out of here. Get your ass out. I don't want you in here. Get the hell out. You understand?
Yeah, I understand that totally. Yeah,
It's like having a Rolls Royce. And you let some corner store mechanic go in there and he tinkering and pull a wire loose. Now the car's spitting and blah, blah, blah. It's all messed up.
Yeah. I know as a coach myself, all the time. Yeah, all the time. Oh, you should do this. You should watch out for this. And you've been working with a team for so long, and you get some guy come and saying to one of your players, oh yeah, well you should try and do this instead. And they've got no idea what you've been doing for the last 6-7 weeks, and you could be tightening things up. They've got no clue. Yeah, I understand. Parents alike can be annoying because they want the best for their kid. They say the best for their kid is to let the trainer do what he's got to do, but instead they jumping in and telling you what to do.
Yeah. my philosophy is about training, you know. I have people now say, why did it take you so long to get the notoriety that you're getting? Who knows? God giveth and God taketh away. Absolutely. But I do know that I wouldn't have it any other way. I would not have it any other way because I learned from old school trainers. I spent a lot of time doing so, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Most of the guys that's out there boxing now, they don't have professors. They don't have nobody to resort back to say, I learned this from so-and-so. I heard so-and-so say that. Or I got this from so-and-so. And I just happen to have spent the last 17 years working with Emanuel Steward in that time. We had some good times together. We had some bad times together. We had some disagreements. You know, we didn't always get along. No two people ever gets along all the time.
No.
My father, my mother, you know what I'm saying? In life with them,
it's just real talk. That's what it is. That's all it is real talk.
Yeah. I didn't agree with Emanuel all the time. We used to bump heads on a lot of issues.
Yeah, but two men that are professional and passionate, this will happen.
Yeah, but throughout, we maintained a good relationship.
Yes.
All those years. Last time I spoke to him was in Bern, Switzerland, for the Tony Thompson fight. So last time I spoke to him, I didn't speak to him no more after I left Bern. We never spoke again, you know? And we had up times, down times when we wouldn't speak for 4 or 5 weeks. But we always got in touch with each other and said, all right, it's time to go to camp. It's time to go make it happen. And somehow we put ourselves good. He'd ask me, well, what you think about this for Wladimir? What you think about that for Wladimir? Do you think we should get this guy? Do you think we should get that guy? What trade? You know, he would ask strategy, everything.
Wow.
We shared a lot of intimate time together on phones and even in the campsites. We spent a lot of intimate time together. And we didn't always agree. You know, there were some things that I thought would be prevalent that he didn't think was prevalent, and I didn't like that. I don't just dismiss what I'm saying. I'm telling you this what I think. And he would dismiss it like it wasn't nothing. I said, no, because I had an opinion about the way things should go. He had no opinion. Until sometimes I thought that it was like a professional rivalry between us.
But,
you know?
but to be fair, there's an expression, 2 bulls can't live in 1 pen.
Yeah, you're right.
And you're 2 leaders. You're 2 leaders. So putting 2 leaders in a room and telling someone to be submissive in that situation, it's a no-brainer.
Well, Emanuel Steward was stubborn in that it was my way
or the highway.
But
but a lot of leaders are like that though, because they believe that if I'm going to do something,
I just wasn't. Very few people ever stood up to Emanuel. Very few people. But I was one of those guys that I said, no, that's not right, or this is right. I always stood up to Emanuel. We bumped heads a lot. It wasn't always hunky-dory between us. We bumped heads a lot. In those 17 years, we bumped heads a lot. But at the end of the day, we always combined our efforts to get the job done. That's what made me last so long with him. Because despite the fact we bumped heads a lot, he respected me and I respected him. He knew that. That's why I stayed this long. How else could it have been? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, how else could it have been that I lasted all of those years? The entire Lennox Lewis camp. You understand? The entire Lennox Lewis camp. Lennox and I are very good friends.
Really?
Yeah. Lennox and I talk all the time on the phone. To this day, we still talk. We still maintain a close relationship. Lennox and I formed a relationship in that camp, and we've been friends ever since. And we still call each other to this day. Lennox will call me, or I'll call him. You know. After he told me that he wanted to open a training camp down in Jamaica. You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember a time Lennox and I were in the Poconos. He's getting ready for somebody. I don't know who it was. But it was like a sunny afternoon when the trainer was always sitting there in the Poconos, and we just sitting there outside the gym talking, and this huge snake comes swimming across the water. Lennox says, look. And the snake comes crawling, swimming across the water, and he comes out to lay in the sun. And the snake had swallowed something because there was a big lump in his stomach. And I just kept remembering when I was looking at the snake, obviously he was trying to digest whatever it was that he ate, maybe a chipmunk or something, you know. It looked like something, like a squirrel or something. But the snake was huge itself. And it was shocking to see a snake that big in the Pocono Mountains. And the whole time we were sitting there talking about the snake, I kept thinking about how bad I felt for what was in his stomach. You know, I kept feeling sorry, but I said, damn, something got to die for something to live.
Yes.
You know? And I kept thinking about, is that me and Emanuel? Do he want me to go away so he can live? Or do I want him to go away so I can live? You know? I kept comparing the two, you know? Because we would bump it. If he said one day I had a kid, and I had the kid throwing a bolo punch. I told the kid to double the jab and throw a wide bolo punch to the body. And Emanuel said in front of everybody, he said, no, don't teach him that. That's not right. I said, well, it worked for Ray Robinson. It worked for Ray Leonard. They did the same thing. They would jab and they'd throw a wide bolo punch to the body, and it would work. So who are you to say that this is not a good punch? And thus began this back and forth. He said one time that at 20 years old, he felt that Joe Frazier would have beat Mike Tyson. I said, beat him where? To the hospital? Mike Tyson kicked Joe Frazier's ass. At 20 years old? At 20 years old apiece, no, he said Joe Frazier would have did this, Joe Frazier would have did that. Joe Frazier was a left hooker. And he wasn't a devastating left hooker. He was a good left hooker, but not a devastating left hooker. His left hook wasn't the kind of left hook that would take you out with one bang. I look at the fight with Jerry Quarry, the first of two fights. Jerry Quarry gave Joe Frazier life and death. I look at the two fights between Oscar Bonavena and Joe Frazier. Bonavena gave him life and death. Quarry and Bonavena would have got knocked out in the same day by Mike Tyson if they were still at 20 years old. Joe Frazier would have been, he'd have been like a duck on a fence for Mike Tyson. At 20 years old? Nah, I'm afraid not. No. So we got into a riff about that, you know? So, you know, but it was good. I never went away with any animosity with Emanuel. I never went with any animosity. Maybe he did, but because I was challenging him. But I know what I know about boxing. You figure Emanuel Steward is 7 years older than me, so we came from the same era. You understand? He had more light than I have, but I knew boxing. One of the things that attracted him to me was because I knew boxing. Emanuel's words to me were that I want you with me, man, because you know boxing. He said, very few people around know boxing. I want you with me because you know boxing. You understand? So when Lennox retired, the last time that he had a fight was in Los Angeles with Vitali Klitschko. Emanuel made sure he came to me and said, listen, I got some plane tickets for you to come to Detroit. Come to Detroit. I want you there to be with me to train fighters. He said, because you know boxing. You understand boxing. You understand the language of boxing. So in that, I felt comfortable in expressing my opinions to him. And sometimes he liked it, sometimes he didn't. Yeah. But the case, I've always had a leader's mentality. I was never a follower.
No, I can tell that.
And people around that were around Emanuel, they were ass kissers. They were ass kissers. If Emanuel said it's raining outside, it could be sunny and 80 degrees, they say, yeah, it's raining, Emanuel. I said, no, it's not. It's fucking sun outside.
Well, because Emanuel Steward had a lot of, he was media friendly, or the media loved Emanuel Steward. Whatever Emanuel said, he was gospel.
Yeah, but most of the people in boxing say that Emanuel was this or that, and they never knew him. I knew him. I was as close to him as anybody in the last 17 years. I knew him up close and personal. Other people have claimed that they knew him. Maybe you did know him, but that was your relationship with him. I know him too, up close and personal, and that's my relationship with him. And nobody can challenge me on what I know about him.
Or boxing.
Nobody can challenge me on his character, on his ways, because I knew him up close and personal. And we spent a lot of intimate time on telephones and in training camps. And even right there, the two of us be right there, and we'd be arguing like a month. We just bump heads. Because you're not just going to tell me, no. I said to him one day, I said, yeah, R. Kelly is to modern day rhythm and blues what Smokey Robinson was yesterday. No, you can't compare the two. You can't. I said, wait. Manuel, I'm not comparing them two individually, but I'm comparing them musically.
Yes.
Smokey Robinson was a crooner from the old days. All the women loved him, and his songs were considered to be sexually explicit songs at that time in the 60s and 70s. Here come R. Kelly in modern time. I said both of them got a lot of gold and platinum records and stuff. Both of them were writers, arrangers, producers. I said they have a lot in common. He said, you can't compare the two. I said, yes, you can. How can you not? We got into an argument about that. That started. He would start the littlest. He would start arguing for the littlest shit.
You know what?
Nobody in their right mind would argue with me about that.
But do you know what I detect? I think you two had a lot of love for one another. And I also think that you admired one another. Even if you didn't, say outwardly to one another, there was definitely a lot of love between one another. And you're both leaders. You're both great. So
I think so. I would like to think so, at least.
I'm sure Emanuel, wherever he is today, loves you. I'm sure Emanuel loves you too.
We was around each other, like I said, for 17 years. And
you know what?
We couldn't have lasted that long.
Emmanuel's probably still arguing with you right this minute in time.
Yeah, we could not have lasted that long. I was just defiant, and I think he respected that about me. I was just one of few people. I don't know nobody who ever challenged him the way I challenged him. I challenged his thinking, his applications. I challenged him. And if I thought something wasn't right, I would say, Emanuel, this is not right. this is not right. You need to address this. You know, he would get upset about it. I said, no, this is not right. You know, we're not being treated right. Nobody would do that. Nobody. Absolutely nobody.
So now James Bashir has got, you know, he's got all this knowledge. He's a superb boxing trainer, a knowledgeable boxing trainer. What does he do now in terms of, you know, because you knew Lennox, and Emanuel Steward had a crop of well-known fighters. What's going to happen without James Bashir in terms of that? You've got the Klitschko, yes. I mean, are you looking to get more guys from Europe to train in terms of like, you know, British fighters and stuff?
Put it like this here.
Yeah.
I've got two young Polish guys now, along with Stephen Chambers and Eddie Chambers.
Yep.
Put it like this here. If nobody is knocking on my door for me to train them, then it's their loss. That's what I'm saying. Instead, they said that this person or that person or this person could do this, could do that, could do this, could do that. I think that the best trainer is the trainer that's training no more than 5. His workload should be 5 fighters and leave the rest alone for other people to do it.
That's exactly what my trainer said to me as well. He only had 5 fighters in his gym in Miami. I
didn't know that.
He had 5 fights down in Miami.
I think that a good, solid trainer can only be effective training 5 fighters. I don't think that good trainers can train 10, 12 fighters. You understand?
I agree.
If your loyalties are spreading all over, and then you start treating fighters like they're on an assembly line, where you just put the trans in, the carburetor in, you know, all of these different parts you start putting in, and they're expected to perform and run the same. No, it's not like that with human beings. Like you might have one guy that's a slugger, one guy that's a boxer, one guy that's strictly a puncher. You understand? So there are different antidotes that has to be addressed when you're training fighters. You can't do it if you got 12, 13 fighters, because then it becomes a blur. You're just training fighters. You're just being greedy for the money.
Yes.
What makes a great trainer? A great trainer, to me, gets the best productivity out of the fighter that he works with. You know, people say that arguably Emanuel Steward is the best trainer ever. Okay, let's look at his case. When Emanuel Steward trained Lennox Lewis was already a gold medalist. He was already an accomplished fighter.
A lot of fighters were like that with Emanuel Steward, though.
Okay,
to be fair.
Come in, you make a little adjustment, and say go. Wladimir Klitschko was already a gold medalist. You make a little adjustment, you say go. They already fight.
Naseem Hamed.
Jermaine Taylor, Kermit Citron. These guys already could fight. You know who the best trainers are? To me, the best trainers are the guys that spend the time with those young kids on the floor, teach them how to stand up, how to jab, how to block and jab, how to slip, slide, stay to the side, and punch combinations. Those trainers who got those kids at 7, 8, 9, and 10 years old, like Brendan Eagle did with Nas.
And Johnny Nelson and who else? Junior Witter. That's 3 already from that gym. Ryan Rhodes.
Nobody ever says nothing about Brendan Eagle. He produced all of those fighters. Nobody says nothing about Customato with Mike Tyson, with Floyd Patterson, with the light heavyweight, Jose Torres. Nobody said nothing about Customato. He took those guys from nothing. He molded them, shaped them, taught them how to do everything, and led them to the world championship. And nobody said nothing about that. So it's not always the guy that comes in with a little paintbrush and put some paint on and say, I made this guy. No, it's the guy that started them from the beginning, that started them with the ABCs. So I'm not so, in the world we live in, everything is embraced by reputation. Oh, yeah, Ray Robinson is the greatest pound-for-pound fighter ever, which arguably might be the case. But most of the people say that he's the greatest pound-for-pound ever without doing any examination of his style. They just took for granted that everybody else does it. So that must be true. He might just be the best pound for pound. But the average person that says he's the best, they do it without examination of the caliber of fighters he fought, the styles he fought. So it's easy for somebody to say that Emanuel Steward was the greatest trainer ever, and most of them will jump on the bandwagon and say, yeah, he's the great. But how do you know? I mean, what's your yardstick to say that he was the greatest one? Well, most of the guys he trained were already fighters.
What about Eddie Futch?
What about Eddie Futch? Another great trainer. But what about the Brendan Ingles and the custom models? Brendan Ingle must have been doing something right to produce such credible fighters out of his gym. Something's going on down there.
Oh,
what he got a Land's magic lamp down there?
And Harold Graham as well.
Harold Graham, you understand?
Wait, hold on. Richard Towers is there, isn't he, with Brendan Ingle's gym?
Yes. Richard Towers, that's my man. That's my guy, man. That's my man.
Why has it gone all quiet with him recently?
I haven't spoken to him in a couple of days, you know. I told him that I'm coming to England just to see him, to see his newborn son.
No, thanks. Cheers. You decide to do that now, and I'm in the Caribbean. Nice one. Thank you, Mr. Bashir.
No, I'm not. You moved up to the Caribbean?
I'm in the Caribbean. I've been in the Caribbean since July. Else I would have been loved to see you in London.
Yeah, I got to go there to see my guy. That's my guy. I really like that guy.
You're a couple of hours away from me.
Yeah, I took a liking to him. I really like him. I mean, family-wise, he's a gentleman. I love that kid. I love that kid. With the proper guidance, that kid can be something. That kid can be something.
Why has it gone quiet? I mean, everyone's talking about Price and Fury, Chisora coming back. You know, you've got Dylan White's coming.
Well, I think now is a good time for Richard Towers to jump into that slot because Price just went down the tubes.
Yes. Audie Harrison's come back.
Huh?
Audie Harrison's come back.
Yeah. Now's the time for Richard Towers to fill in the slot. I think Richard Powers, he surprised me because one day Vladimir knocked him down. I mean, sat him down with a hard-ass hook. A hard hook. Bam! And it, boom! He's sitting on the floor. And he's like, looking at him like, what the hell happened? You know, he was just sitting on the floor looking, man. He was just like, what in the world? And we had to help him up. Say, hey, man, you come on out this ring, man, before you get killed, you know? And he wanted to keep going. I said, no. There ain't no shame in that. Get out this ring, man. He got dropped. I mean, he got hit with a leaping hook. He jumped into the hook and hit him, bam, and he dropped Towers. And Towers told me, he said, man, Vladimir is the 10th person that I have ever sparred in my life. And I said to him, what? He said, he's the 10th person I ever sparred. And I thought that this guy's in here sparring with the heavyweight champion, and this is the 10th person that he sparred? I said, man, that's something else to be here, you know, giving this kind of work, you know, because I was working the corner with him. I was working the corner with him and Deontay Wilder, you know, and my job is to get the best out of them. So I'm saying, man, go after him, man. Fuck it. If he's the heavyweight champion, go after him and punch. So they were taking chances when they got caught because Deontay got dropped too. Deontay got dropped too. Vladimir dropped them both, you know. But the fact that I was impressed by it, that they were trying to be aggressive when they got caught. You know, when they got caught, they were trying to be aggressive. So that all comes in the learning stages of boxing, you know. But Richard Towers, that's my guy. I really love that guy, man. I really love him. He's a good person, and I really, really love him, you know.
I hope that Richard gets his career back on track because I haven't heard anything from that last fight he's had. So it'd be good to hear from him and see him back in the ring.
What's the last fight he had?
He fought a guy from France, and he went. I think he got rocked and really badly hurt in the fight. But he beat him in the end. He came back and beat the guy in the end. Yeah, I can't remember the name. The French guy from Paris, I think.
Yeah, I'll go to BoxRec after here and see who that was, you know.
Okay. So, the final fight, and a fighter that I've got a lot of respect for, a lot of time for, and somebody I'm hoping to get an interview with, Austin Trout.
What about him?
He fights Canelo, who I think he beats Canelo.
Yeah, he's smart enough to beat him.
I mean, he's got all the skills. And, you know, Canelo has not fought anybody in his own weight division yet. For his career, he's not fought anyone in his weight division yet.
Well, you know, Trout has a style to beat Canelo.
Yes.
It's a dangerous fight for Canelo. If Trout can take the punch, and I think that he can.
So do I.
He's gonna beat the guy.
I
would say so far.
It's a wrap, because as far as I'm concerned, if Canelo can't hurt him, he's definitely not a boxing Trout. He's not a good enough boxer for that.
No, he's got to depend on
punch,
on conditioning and power.
That's it.
Conditioning and power is what's going to win or lose that fight, and I think that Trout will be way up for the fight.
But why have they taken a fight? Why have Golden Boy taken this fight when they know what can happen?
Does Golden Boy have both of them?
No, I don't think so. Golden Boys. I think he's Showtime. I don't know who Trout's with. I don't think he's with them though. I don't think he's with Golden.
Well, he will be. he will be. You know, I would take the fight. I would take the fight.
So what you're basically saying is Golden Boy signed up. I've got it in the contract that says, you know what? If you happen to beat Canelo, you become one of our fighters. I like that.
Let me tell you something. What do you think that Al Heyman, HBO, and Golden Boy is saying to Seth Mitchell? They're saying that we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars tied up in you. Now you have to piss or get off the pot. You got to beat Jonathan Banks. You got yourself into this mess. Now you got to get yourself out of the mess.
I mean, I did an interview with Byron Jennings not too long ago, and he said to me, well, I said, you're going to go and take a fight with Wladimir Klitschko, and really you need to get more experience fighting taller guys. He said, look, there's no point in me fighting another 10 fights and trying to build myself up to this fight. It's either I can beat him or I can't beat him. It's either, you know, piss or get off the pot. That was his expression.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you said. So I said,
I like Brian Jennings because he's a gambler. He's a throwback fighter.
Yes.
You know,
a lot of times.
I got all the respect in the world for him. Yeah. I got more respect for him than I got for these prima donnas that's undefeated and fight nobodies. They should fight Brian Jennings. Deontay Wilder, Joe Hanks, they should fight Brian Jennings. You know, maybe they'll beat him. But I like the idea because he's a good injection for the sport of boxing. We need Brian Jennings. We need more people with that kind of mentality. You know, everybody's freaking businessmen now. That fight doesn't make sense. All of a sudden, they're the promoter now. That fight doesn't make sense. And all the time, people are paying for excitement, man. People are paying to see you do what they're not capable of doing. If you got a guy walking up there on a tightrope 2,000 feet above ground with no net at the ground, everybody's going to pay to see that. They're going to pay to see that because they can't do it. That's why they're paying you. That's why you're getting this astronomical money. Well, this fight don't make sense. That fight don't make sense. You can get two guys. One guy could be 40-5. Another guy could be 28-7. But if the chemistry has the making of a good fight, they can sell it on HBO. But now they got the world believe that, well, they don't want to see guys that's with 7 losses. No, what they want to see is excitement. They don't want to see two guys 25-0 or 25-0 and there's no excitement. Years ago, you had John the Beast Mugabe.
Yes.
Versus Earl Hargrove out of Philadelphia. One guy came in the fight 25-0. The other guy came in the fight 26-0. Everybody bought the fight. And the fight got ended in the first round. Because you had two explosive punches.
Going at it.
26-0, 26 knockout, 25-0, 25 knockout. Fight ends in the first round. You understand? But the people went for it because, wow, how often do you see two big punches like this here? So nobody cares about the records. It was commonplace. It was commonplace in the old days. Alexis Aguero, the great Alexis Aguero, Here's a guy. Assalamu alaikum. I'm doing an interview right now. I'll call you back. I'll call you back. I'm doing an interview right now. Yeah, I'm going to call you back. Yes, we're going to do it. All right. You understand? Here go the great Alexis Aguero.
Yes.
Here's a guy that was KO'd in his second or third pro fight. If that happens to a young fighter today, then, oh, that guy's not going to be nothing. No, he got knocked out because he was in a fight. You understand? It wasn't like in Amir Khan's case because he got knocked out, then knocked out again, and knocked out again. Aguero got knocked out and kept going. You look at Henry Armstrong.
Yes.
Carlos Monzon. Look at all these guys. Some of these guys came to the dance. Pepino Cuevas. Some of these guys came to the dance with losses. Mike Weaver. You understand? Mike Weaver turned out to be a good fighter to be when he fought for the title. He had 13 losses. But he turned out to be a good fighter. So he turned his career around. So what the media won't sell is fighters with losses.
But Glenn Johnson's a good fighter. It was a very good fighter, Glenn Johnson.
Yes, with all those losses.
With all those losses.
So it's not so much the guy that has losses, but what did he learn? What kind of fighter did he become because of those losses?
I think there's a statement that come out. I think Mayweather says, well, look, he's got 8 losses on his record. That means there's 8 different ways to beat him. I mean, statements like that, the media buy into.
Well, you can't put much stock in what Floyd says because he really lost to Castillo in the first fight.
Yes.
He lost that decision. He lost that decision in the Castillo decision in the first fight. They gave that fight to him. Mm-hmm. All right. He beat him the second time. So I don't put much stock in it there. It just, to me, when I got a guy that's got 9 losses, I'm very wary of him bringing my undefeated guy against him.
Because they got nothing to lose.
He got nothing to lose, and he's got 9 ways that he learned from.
Oh, you would have hoped he learned from.
Yeah. In most cases, he got 9 experiences on how not to get beaten again.
Yeah.
It depends on what end of the scope you're looking at the situation. I'm always weird, this guy. I said, this is an experienced fighter. He's a very experienced fighter, and it could be that he can come in and beat my guy. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. So it's a lot of different scenarios to look at it on, Mm-hmm. But boxing needs serious fights. Nobody don't want to see that stuff. The last guy that Deontay Wilder fought, he was supposed to be dangerous and this and that and that and this. And I never heard of the guy. I never saw the guy, never heard of him. And the guy fought like he was a track star.
He was trained by Roy Jones' dad.
So what? So what? Roy Jones' dad wasn't a good fighter. Roy Jones was a good fighter, but his dad was no good fighter. Because he was a good fighter, that guy didn't show nothing when he got there. That guy showed something about how to promote sneakers for running, because when he got there with Deontay, he didn't look like he had a clue as to what he was doing.
I actually thought he could have slipped the right hand and threw something back. That's what I was waiting to happen, but he walked straight onto the bloody right hand.
He was so
nervous.
He was so panicky looking. He looked like, oh God, it's coming, oh God, I'm getting in, He didn't have he didn't show any poise, any professionalism, any reason why I'm here or why I'll be back here.
Funny enough, there's a prospect that won night before, I think last night beat Harold Sconias.
Harold Sconias got beat by who?
Harold Sconias got beat by a guy who got knocked out in the first round by an up-and-coming prospect last night. Yeah? And listen to this. This is the same Harold Sconias that dropped Wilder in the second round and almost knocked him out. You can't see that fight anywhere on tape. They've taken it off YouTube. That was a fight that almost got stopped.
Harold Sconias, let me tell you something. I had Maurice Harris fight Harold Sconias years ago.
Yep.
And Maurice Harris beat the brakes off of Harold Scallions. But let me tell you something. Harold Scallions was in that fight every step of the way. He's a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
I took Andre Paulette against him. Paulette got knocked out in 2 rounds. He beat Jamil McCline. Harold Scallions is a throwback fighter. He's a tough dude with a tough mentality and a lot of heart. And he knocked Deontay Wilder down.
He knocked him down and had him badly hurt, and some reports say he was almost out of the fight, but he came back and won the fight.
Yeah. Harold Scallions is a fighter. He's a fighter. I'm surprised that he's still fighting.
Yeah, he got knocked out yet. He got knocked out last night.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
He needs to think about giving it up so why he still got some brains left. He's been knocked a couple of times.
James Ali Bashir, thank you so much once again for talking to Bayloric TV. I love talking to you because I learned so much more about boxing. It's
I'm glad.
It's an honor, an absolute honor to talk to somebody like yourself. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That was James Ali Bashir in another in-depth interview. I'd like to take this opportunity once again to thank James Ali Bashir for being so open, so honest, and so revealing about his relationship with Emanuel Steward, his views on the heavyweight division. And James Ali Bashir is no mug. He's been in the sport for over 40 years, and there are very few trainees in the world today that has this man's experience. And Wladimir Klitschko obviously brought him on board with Emanuel Steward, so they obviously know one or two things about boxing. So James Ali Bashir is one of the best in the world without a shadow of a doubt, and people probably consider him now the best in the world when you think about his experience, who's training, and the knowledge that he has. Hope you found the interview and the show revealing. I personally found it one of the most revealing interviews for me. And James Ali Bashir is just one cool dude. Yeah, don't forget to check us out, www.bayloricworldwide.com, www.bayloricworldwide.com for all the other interviews. And hey, if there's somebody you'd like to be interviewed, whether you're a trainer, a promoter, a manager, even a fighter yourself, get in touch. I'll leave the contact details at the bottom here, and yeah, get in touch, let's talk, let's make it happen. This has been Inside Story with your host, me, Ingram Jones. Take care now, goodbye.